have all of you here today to join us as we will be launching a very important report that we believe is ready to move us forward.
If you could share, if not just, okay, it's coming, because we need the QR code.
Data for Change, who came together to put this report together, that we believe this is very essential for Zambia, in the sense that we begin to build on the building blocks of our own research, built on our own data from people like you and me who've been able to experience the different facilities and the different faculties of where we live today. So today we're being able to launch an ecosystem report, and just want to mention a few things before we get into that. As you know, today we're being hosted in this lovely venue, which is the Hive Co-working, and we want to let you know a little bit about the people that were behind the report. I represent BongoHive. My name is Mapalo Lukashi. I am the data and AI lead here. I also am the head of the AI lab that we launched last year in the month of March. What we do at BongoHive is that we are an innovation and technology hub. So two really different roads that you get to see. Most of you may have seen us work alongside a lot of startups through our incubator programs, accelerator programs. That really encompasses a lot of what we do in being pro-innovation. And we've been doing that for the past 15 years now, and being able to support startups, be able to not just get to know how to run a business, but have access to funding. We also do a lot in the technology sector. We've got a large technology team. Some of the tech team is here today. We're talking about front devs, we're talking about back-end devs. So we also provide a lot of corporate solutions for organizations, ensuring that organizations are able to have that right digital transition with the right technologies that fit for them. So that's partly what we do at BongoHive. And to be able to put the icing on the cake, we are also really rooted in the advancement of AI within the Southern African region. And so that's something that we're doing here today by building a blog on AI local languages, specifically for Zambia. Allow me to welcome Hannah to mention a little bit around Data for Change, so that she may be able to give a perspective of where they're coming from and why they're part of this process. A round of applause, please.
And we're having this event today at a very opportune time. Talking about low resource languages now for AI is not happening in isolation, but on stage in Delhi, India right now at the Global AI Summit. And technology, here we go. And this is such a big statement because after Britain, South Korea, and France, this summit is happening for the first time in a developing market. Next year, it will be in Switzerland, already announced. But I mean, we are here to put Zambia on the map, to hope that in a few years from now, it won't be too optimistic of a thought to host such a summit in Zambia, right? And one discourse that emerges very loudly from the AI summit in India, my colleagues are there right now, is the topic of data. If we want to localize AI, of course, it can not only be about having the best, most powerful models with the most layers possible, but garbage in, garbage out, we know that, and we still face a lot of data gaps. We still face challenges in terms of statistical capacity in many African countries, and this is something that we can change. This is what Data for Change, the Paris 21 Foundation, stands for. Paris 21 is an abbreviation for Partnership for Statistics and Development in the 21st Century. So we believe that national statistical offices are important data stewards, and our role as the foundation is to drive innovation for national statistical systems and also speak about or advance the topic of AI readiness of official statistics. And nowadays, what is one of those innovations? I will just grab this one. I don't know whose it is, but this tool is actually also a very powerful data collection tool, right? Citizen science is a topic that emerges a lot to also complement official statistics and the information that we need to drive our decisions. I'm a bird watcher. I don't know if we have fellow bird watchers in the room. Don't be shy. Make your favorite bird sound, maybe. And this year is the year of African sounds for bird watchers. The Zambian Birdwatch Society is part of an African project where you just need a phone to collect data from birds. It takes 150 audio recordings to have enough to fuel the AI-powered bird recognition tools like the Merlin Sound ID app. And I think this is a beautiful example where people like you and me become scientists to collect the data that is needed to drive research, to drive knowledge, to put Zambian information on the map. And now, talking about collecting information, I need you to get your little friends out, your tools. We are going to have a little survey, and that means we look at the number 1 here, which is like, we should be hosting the next global AI summit. To number 9, I think all our jobs will be replaced by AI by next month. So this is the scale that we're navigating. We see many people are confident. And I must say from my experience, working with national statistical offices all around the globe, the Europeans are usually first concerned about safety, regulation, and risks. It's about protecting the wealth and stability that you have. Then you talk with national statisticians from Honduras to Somalia, and they are excited. They're, let's do it. Let's sign an MOU and get started. So I must say, I find that very interesting, right? That we look from different perspectives and different mindsets at this transformative topic. Okay, that's a wonderful image, and I will share those results with you.
So what we're about to do now is essentially go through an overview of what's covered in the report. If you look at the screen, you're going to see a QR code that you can scan, and I'm going to have this on the last page. That's the official link to the report. So you can do that right now if you want to be able to take a photo of it. You're the first people seeing it. After this, it's going to go on social. It's going to go all out. So you can take a screenshot, or you can wait, or a picture actually, and then you can wait for the end to actually have a run through it. So in the global north, most of you know that the biggest concerns is AGI, right? This is where artificial general intelligence is believed is going to reach the point where it's sentient, fully autonomous, meaning that it can do whatever it wants and you do not have to give it permission. And those are most of the concerns that the global north have. But whereas those things are important, including biases in terms of how copyright infringement happens in the US, and how before recently we had Seedance do some really interesting things. It's a technology that allows for video creation. And so they were being asked to stop utilizing IP that they had not licensed. And that was particularly the Tom Cruise versus Brad Pitt fight scene on the rooftop. Very good fight scene. This looked probably better than most movies I've seen. The action was amazing. And I was caught between two. Should I be supportive of this technology, or should I back, the global north horse of saying that was not permitted and it should stop, right? So those are very important challenges that we face in today's era as well. But in Africa, one of the things that we are thinking about when it comes to responsible AI is this AI being contextually aligned?
I'm calling upon now our panelists to take a seat right here behind me before we introduce them. I won't be alone guiding you or moderating this panel. I'll be with my wonderful colleague Pendo Manjele, who's a senior data scientist at Zanaco and also founder of Ubuntu AI. And we are very happy to have a diverse panel. Of course, in terms of gender, it's sometimes a bit hard in Zambia, I must admit, but I think the female power here will balance that off. Before we go into the presentation of our panelists, I would like to let you know that now is the moment to move from presenting the report to activating it. This is why we're here today. So we have ecosystem enablers, AI experts, data scientists, as well as representatives of the finance industry, of the manufacturing businesses themselves, and of course of the agriculture and agri-tech field. And AI in local languages requires that kind of cross-sector coordination. We have heard one number that stuck with me. I'm sure there are numbers that stuck with you. And please keep posting your questions in the Menti for this section as well. We'll be going back to them at the very end. 97% of stakeholders express willingness to collaborate, but fragmentation, data silos, a big problem, and lack of platforms prevent that action. So motivation is not the problem, it's rather coordination. That's why we brought together people from different sectors. The way this panel is going to happen, we have dedicated question to each of the panelists, and then we have an open question that all of them can commit to, and then we're asking you, so you can start thinking to write down your favorite question. We'll be taking also up to 3 questions from the audience. Thank you. Over to Pendo.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening. I hope my voice is audible. I had a bit of a low voice because of the weather. I'll try to be as audible as possible. In the back?
Yeah, microphone.
You need a mic. Online.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can hold it, all right? Or perfect.
Okay, so as introduced, my name is Pendo Mandele. I am also the co-founder of Ubuntu AI community, which has been a part of this mapping report. Our community is a grassroots initiative that's rooted in inclusivity with the goal of advancing AI in Zambia. So without further ado, I will turn to my panelists and ask them to introduce themselves, but also following the report from Makalo, I think which was quite insightful. It's important that we start drilling down, shaping AI from the grassroots level here in Zambia. Just from the panelists, as you introduce yourselves, please share what's the key insight that stood out for you in the report that Makalo shared with us. So I'll start with Parity, and we can go in that order.
I'm an IT project manager at Good Nature Agro. So one thing that stood out for me from the report that Makalo is sharing is coordination of efforts. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Francis Mumbi. I head data and analytics at Islamic Bank Zambia. I'm also a citizen AI researcher. Going to get some more listening to the report, what stood out for me is the appetite for engagement and learning. And I think that's an opportunity that we can all capitalize on. And I'm really looking forward to see how that can actually be actualized. The 95% number is stuck in my head.
Hi, my name is Ashu Sagar. I have my own business in the manufacturing sector. I'm the past president for the Manufacturers Association, current vice president for Zaki. I sit on the board of the development agency. What stood out, I don't know, I wasn't really listening. I was waiting for the sound to But I think maybe lack of maybe next steps was very apparent for me. Practical next steps in terms of gaps and everything, but I think that was very key. That we think we need to really open up a discussion about going forward.
Perfect.
My name is Okonga Ndunda, co-founder and executive director of BongoHive. So it's nice to see you all. I saw that there are 130 people that actually bothered to fill out the survey. So for me, that stood out. Only because Makalo mentioned that these are people that are actually in the languages space, that he's interested in that. I think it's great for us to be able to have such a community.
You can give the mic to maybe her or him.
Thank you. And I will start with Lukonga actually as the host BongoHive. So Lukonga, maybe just to circle back on the report, some of the insights that we have presented, Makalo has presented. The report highlighted that there's a tension between the local AI models and also the unique linguistic nuances of Zambia. So we have over 70 dialects in Zambia. That's a lot. From an ecosystem perspective, which we have been invested in for quite a while, how do we move beyond just translating, Western AI tools and instead empower local developers to build context-first AI that understands the cultural and idiomatic depth of Zambian languages? And also, what is the biggest barrier, in your perspective, of commercializing that local IP for the local developers and builders?
Long verse.
Yeah.
But let me start off on the light note. This is a very unique panel because in this panel, I've got my wife's former boss, a church mate, and the former employee. So it's weird being among these kinds of people. First of all, we talk about context and ecosystem. So it reminds me of when we started BongoHive, right? 2010, 2011, there was talk of Android and everyone was trying to build apps and become a millionaire. And we always ask the question, or at least we started asking ourselves the question, what was the context for these apps, right? And I think that situation is not any different from where we are now, where the technology is there, and now we have to ask ourselves, oh, so what do we do with this stuff, right? And that's an important storyline to bring to this conversation. And last year, when Maparo and I were busy chatting about what we needed to do, it was because ChatGPT was becoming very interesting, and then we asked ourselves, okay, so what do we do about this stuff, right? And when we set up the AI lab, it was because of that need that we noticed that we needed to provide people with the right context, right? And context is much more difficult for people, particularly for tech people, because the technology excites us a lot, right? And so in bringing the context, last year when we did the AI surveys together with other partners like Ubuntu AI and the ICT regulator, it was to surface those findings so that people can actually understand what is going on, right? And from those findings, again, consistent with your report, again, it's that people are enthusiastic, but there's a lack of a local context. In this case, languages became a big issue. So can people really use these tools using local languages? And so fast forward to that, and another conversation that was had, right? It ended up with you guys and Ubuntu, and the ecosystem initiatives always have to involve a couple of pairs for the impact to be far-reaching and sustainable. And that's why this report again was done, so that we get to a point where we understand why languages, and it's not just an issue for you and I, but maybe it's a Zambian-wide, and eventually you find it's an Africa-wide problem, or it's a global problem. And then the next bit is, okay, so now that it's a problem, how do we enable people to actually address the problem? And so from an ecosystem approach, it's always a sustained interaction between various players, so that we don't only understand what the problem is, but we create the platforms and the spaces for us to have conversations and for people to actually showcase what they're doing. And what I love about some of the activities we've run, even today, is that after we have the conversation about languages, people actually showcase what they're doing, right? And I think we need to be consistent about the let's build. I'll end with one point. One of the biggest frustrations for us, actually 2 points. One of the biggest frustrations for us has always been that once you have the conversations, you talk to founders and they say, oh, I'm building this interesting thing. And then you ask, okay, show me. And they're like, no, it's an exciting thing. It's in my bedroom. I'll show you next week. But what we need to do is encourage developers, constantly push people who are entrepreneurs to actually build, right? So yes, Google, Gemini, for example, launched a music feature yesterday. But, who's actually building anything that relates to that, right? So beyond the conversations, it's always the reminder to everyone that we can talk about stuff, but we also want to create a space where people actually build and showcase what they're doing, because that's an important part of the conversation. You asked about IP, right? And again, part of the ecosystem initiatives are, look, I'm not an IP expert, right? 3 floors down, there's Moira & Company, the interesting law firm, advertising for them. But they'll be doing a session next week on intellectual property and data governance, right? So it always has to be about these conversations and ecosystem collaborations that I think will lead us to unlocking value. But BongoHive can't do it alone, Ubuntu can't do it alone, but I think that if we all work together to bring our best abilities and resources, I think people can then build on that and really build stuff that changes the world.
Thank you so much for that. We've heard context and domain expertise matters. And later during the cocktail, I'll catch you to find out who is who in that the group here. And unlocking value. This is my word to hand over to Parity, actually, because for smallholder farmers, language is very often the barriers to unlock value and to access high-value markets. From your experience at Good Nature Agro, a company that by now, by the way, has 300 employees and just around 30 in the tech team and a lot of machine learning engineers, data scientists. So you do a lot in terms of AI solutions already. What do you do to reach the last mile, and where could local language solutions come in better, and where are the barriers? And I'm giving you this microphone.
All right. Okay, so that's quite an interesting question. So trying to reach smallholder farmers is quite a difficult feat. So one thing that we found is most smallholder farmers are not literate, and most of them don't have access to smartphones. Yeah, so of course there were a whole lot of solutions trying to solve their problems through apps, but that's just something that can't work for them. So we realized the channel fit needed to be looked at. And because of that, we decided to come up with a USSD platform and a call center solution, an IVR. So with that, we've built what we call agro-intelligence. So with agro-intelligence, we are trying to help smallholder farmers using all the data that the organization has gathered over a period of 10 years, and also, of course, other data from expert agronomists in order to train the models to assist the farmers better. So the channel fit is the first thing. So we recognize USSD can reach the farmers, and also an IVR can reach them. Challenge, language. Yeah, most of the farmers, smallholder farmers, countrywide, don't understand English. Yeah, a few, of course, are able to read, but the majority can't understand English. So the call center coming in for those, at least. Yeah, then the other thing that we found is contextual intelligence. So, of course, you can provide an AI solution to solve a problem for a smallholder farmer, but how is it exactly going to help them? If a farmer in Sesheke asks a question to that AI tool that you've built or whatever solution you've built, and a farmer in Northern Province asks the same question, what answers are they going to get? So with the solutions that we've built, we decided to add that context whereby it has to take into consideration the KYC of the farmer, meaning the location, the actual location of the farmer, the size of their field, the type of soil that they have, and the climate in that region as well. So if it's supposed to give a response, let's say, regarding the planting dates, the type of crops that they can plant, it has to put all that context into consideration before it gives a response. Yeah, so of course, USSD gives as limitations, so that's why we also decided to add a call center. And so far, we've been experimenting with that, and we are getting good results with audits, of course, from expert agronomists that also countering what the AI solutions are giving us. So I think from, just to summarize what I've mentioned, the channel and the contextual intelligence mainly. Thank you.
Pass your microphone right on.
I think that's quite insightful, Parity, and I think considering there has been talks around how AI call center agents will be replaced by artificial intelligence, and I know most organizations are looking towards that because you have so many customers calling in, and sometimes you have that beeping sound of you have to wait. And it's frustrating from the customer side. But then in their context, most of their customers can't articulate or understand English. And so that's where the challenge comes in, but there's also an opportunity for, I think it's an opportunity for us who understand the language to now start thinking around how do we build, and this is a conversation that we're having today. So thank you, Parity, for sharing that insight. I will move to Francis Mumbi. Financial inclusion, very big. I think everyone, when it comes to finances, we're all impacted and affected. So from the banking sector, how can the banking sector leverage AI-powered social media or chat agents like the Stan Big Guy, to support customers in their native languages while maintaining high security and responsible AI standards? If I walk into the bank today, by default, they'll speak to me in English. And I think most of the local people who can't understand English don't even want to enter a bank because of that reason. So how can our AI agents, because we're now going into AI first as banks, that's the race that's been run. So how can the banks now start supporting local native languages?
Thank you very much for that question. So, yes, definitely there's a big opportunity presented with this new technology and toolkits to extend access of financial services. And of course, access to financial services is actually part of the SDGs, so it deserves the right levels of attention. But I also just want to paint a picture in terms of the opportunity set that we currently have. If you delve back 10 years ago in terms of looking at financial services or access to financial services, you find that the biggest problems were around the first and last mile access in terms of the rails to enable people to connect to the financial services provider. Over the past 10 years, I think the infrastructure has largely been built, either by players within the telecom sector, either by players within the banking sector, or partnerships existing within these ecosystems. So the barrier is not necessarily access, with 97% access to mobile services. That's not the barrier. The new barrier, or the wall that we need to scale, is the language barrier. If you log into any app, even the simplest one, the USSD apps, there's an assumption that the person speaks English, right? And also there's a bigger assumption that the person can read, right? So those barriers can potentially be solved with the existing technology, but also most importantly, exploring new modalities, all right? Most of the chatbots are text-based. Can you explore new modalities like voice as a primary means of interaction? Of course, this also opens up new challenges. Data privacy is one of them. Data residency is one of them. If you're in financial services, accuracy is of paramount importance. We've got all units dedicated to ensuring the books balance. Are you giving accurate data that can be relied upon, especially that we're in a regulated industry? So all those components have to be solved for this opportunity to really be unlocked. But I'm a firm believer that this technology can actually help us to scale that wall, the language wall, and then we'll be able to deliver universal financial access. Right.
Thank you very much. War sounds quite intense, but we like to hear that you're on the positive side. And yeah, I fully agree, especially on the accuracy question. LLMs, as the name large language suggests, are often very good with words, but bad with numbers. So that is also a challenge to overcome when we look at keeping the books right? And keeping the books right is something that concerns all our businesses in Zambia for sure, the manufacturers. Yeah, you with your representation of so many different associations, you might know every CEO in Zambia and the president very well. So Ashu, I have two questions actually. In general, how do you see AI affecting the economic landscape in Zambia? I'll let that one settle for a moment. And the second one, that goes more into really the machine room maybe. Will AI-driven interfaces help achieve optimum production models? Thank you.
first, I think you must look at stuff like what Good Nature Agro is doing, put it in perspective of what it can really do for an economy. I know in other countries they're doing stuff like this, where farmers basically get advice on when to plant, how to plant, rain's coming, what you need to do, fertilizer, all on USSD or smartphones. And those are kind of the game changers that I think you're gonna see in the economy and in the workspace. But I have a slightly different thinking in the short, medium, and long term in terms of what we really need to be careful of. And it's a theory that looks at artificial intelligence versus becoming artificially intelligent. And really, that's where I think we need to really understand where the balance has to be drawn, right? And if you go back, and when I say short, medium, long term, it's about what we might inadvertently do to ourselves in creating an economic base where you substitute your use through artificial intelligence and therefore have no opportunity to earn. So what's the point of creating manufacturing processes that cannot be consumed by people who can't earn, that have had their jobs taken over by artificial intelligence? There's an old saying that says, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, right? Inadvertently, by going down a unregulated, and I'm talking about this AI space, where I as a manufacturer want to optimize my profits and use artificial intelligence to drive manufacturing. In many spaces, what you're finding, even in the farming space, I was watching something in China now, where apple harvesting is done totally by robotics. AI recognizing, is it right, is it the right size, picks it, puts it off into different things, and it gets packed. You take away the people who need it, where's the cash flow for them? So while we want to drive artificial intelligence to create optimized industries and move the economic space, what I see us doing is, with artificial intelligence, we look at it, it's progressively learning and self-learning. You're going to be in the space of the short term, hard times create strong men, right? And strong men then create good times, and things start going like this, then you're going to go off a cliff. And he doesn't need the farmers anymore. Why does he need a language? Why does he need a language? So these are the things I think in Zambia, artificial intelligence has a very big role to play now. But the management, and what I said about next steps, the management of it, of how we create those interfaces to make them sustainable, to leave economic transformation for the people and leave it in their hands for the next 10 to 50 years, is really the question you need to be asking. Not, oh yeah, let me create an app, or let me do this, and it'll solve a problem. But that solve a problem will solve its own problem and its own problem, and basically create a gap inadvertently. So there's a lot it will do for government right now. It will do for financial space, agri-space, manufacturing flows. But I think we need to be a little careful when it comes to economic development in even a language interface, as much as it is needed, right? And I can see, especially from your perspective, you've got a farmer sitting in Southern Province, one in Northern, but just trying to convey the same message, but they can't speak into a bank. I was thinking about it the other day, in the old days, in a mall, when the first escalator opened, people were going and taking selfies. In a bank, I can imagine walking in and you choose, I want to interface with a AI bot that speaks in Nyanja. And it'll be like, first time for someone from the village, you'll be like, yeah. Selfie time. Right? But these are the things that we need to progress and do. Don't get me wrong. But I think the management of it really needs to be addressed, even when it comes, I've seen our AI policy and everything, but have we addressed the long-term impact? I don't think we have. And those are the questions I would like to see beyond, AI languages and what we can do today, yeah, plenty. And it's very beneficial right now.
Thank you for raising some new questions for us and also to be the voice of care. I just came from an AI summit in Switzerland, and there was a panel titled Markets, Machines, and Meaning. And what I learned there is also, we always have this idea, yeah, and that was the example, the robot replacing the human, like the apple picker replaced by a robot. But very often what is much more transformative is whole business models changing. Like newspapers, printed newspapers very often, that is, or the advertising in printed newspapers, that's something we still see here, but that it's not really happening much anymore in countries where digital technology has taken over. And another fact to add on that for Switzerland, 40% of job titles or job roles that we have now did not exist in 1970. So there's also that change of entire business models creates completely new roles that, like, I mean, that would be a good question for you to take into the networking. What is the most crazy role in the future that you can't even dream of now, right? And yeah, that brings me to a question to all of you. And I'm getting the crowd ready. This will be almost the final question. So prepare your questions. I'll be taking them. Maybe Pendo, you can go around and collect questions in the meantime while the panel will be asking and thinking about the people that build AI in Zambia, talent. Just a few figures. I mentioned India, where the AI summit is happening right now. India's government spends 0.7% of GDP into research and development. They invest a lot in their universities to create a huge tech workforce. So they have a lot of talented builders, but retaining them is challenging because now they are competing with salaries from Google, Meta, and the like. So if we think of Zambia, and I think we have a few brilliant data scientists in the room, how do we attract and retain talent here? What do we offer them? Is it also being part of something meaningful if salary cannot be the biggest competitor? And that goes to all of you. I don't know who wants to answer first.
I think that's the biggest gap in Zambia. And I about 2 years ago, I gave a presentation about introducing coding in schools. Right? And the thinking around it is very like apprehensive, where you just want to bring in something that creates the talent first. When you have enough supply, do you really have a problem of retention? Is the first question, supply and demand, right? So I would say to you, first create the supply of talent. There's a lot of the talent probably in this room is self-taught, right? Not structured learning to get to that point. Or people who probably got educated overseas with, that opportunity or degree and came back with that structured thing. But a lot of the guys you hear about, I mean, there's a company, I forget the name, has taught programmers from some of the compounds. And brilliant guys, right, who had taught logic thinking and are able to program. But imagine if we did that in the schools. Imagine if you introduced coding classes to create the supply. Where's the deficit gonna be? That's where you now change. That's the game. Where's the game changer? It's starting from the bottom.
Comments from someone else on the panel? Don't feel forced. If you have something to say to it, that's your chance.
Don't mind saying I'm wrong. I'm just one of those guys that wakes up on the wrong side of bed every day.
So another thing that I can mention on top of building talent is creating opportunities for the talent that we develop. Of course, Zambia is quite a small market for most products, but as he mentioned, if we create enough demand, even the solutions that we can create locally can have a global first approach. We are not just trying to build for Zambians. This is a global village. A Zambian can actually build a product that can be sold to the rest of the world, just like we consume Western tech. So think just creating that environment and ensuring the talent that we have understands that it can work the other way around as well.
Yeah, quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I concur with both submissions, but also with an addition, right? The issue of talent is almost like a chicken and egg problem, depending on the context that you are in. I'm sitting in an innovation hub, right? And most innovators know that a product can fail due to timing, right? So I think any practitioner, myself included, the balancing act, the equation that we're trying to balance is how do we optimize the investment across talent versus problem sets to work on. I've seen cases where we've built a talent pool, but there are no meaningful challenges to apply that talent on, and that creates the problem of attrition. They start looking for opportunities elsewhere, right? So the challenge to everybody in this room is it would be great to look at meaningful problems that these smart people can work on, and then build the talent to meet those demands. I believe that if you can solve that equation, to give you a nice flywheel of talent who are excited now to solve those problems, including the language gap that we're discussing. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot to say about talent.
Just a quick one.
Yeah, we've been working across the talent landscape from different perspectives over the years, and I've come to appreciate why every aspect is important, and I'll explain why. We teach kids here over weekends. We teach them robotics with our partner robotics, right? So like really young kids, right? So there's a place for that, right? There's a place for working with universities across their programs and trying to bring in more creativity to improve the quality of the talent, right? Post-university, encouraging them to become entrepreneurs and experiment and be in groups like this. We've had so many initiatives. I met one guy this morning who was part of the Facebook developer circles, for example. He said, I attended those and I chose a career in tech, right? Mm-hmm. So all those unstructured peer-to-peer learning programs, which Pen was leading and others are important, right? But there's another controversial one which I like to talk about. There was a young lady who studied in China, Zambian lady, came back here, couldn't find a job for 6 months, right? Had studied aeronautical engineering. We gave her an internship here and helped her rethink her career into a data role. Right? She spent 6 months here, did some courses. She interned, she left BongoHive, joined PwC Zambia in the data team. Right? 6 months later, she got a job with Facebook. She's in Dublin, right, Ireland. I like creating opportunities for Zambians to work at global companies. Right? I think we need more Zambian devs, like he said, getting the structured, being in structured environments. And I think if we can have more Zambians out there, much like Indians, right? Out there working across the globe, gaining the experience, creating opportunities for other Zambians, I think that we would have a much more holistic view about let's create the talent, let's create opportunities for them. And once all this is connected, it's a much more sustainable ecosystem than simply saying everyone should stay in Zambia. I think that's impossible, right? Yeah. I think there should be opportunities created for different people at different stages. And when you look at it across the whole value chain, you will see that there's value for each and every one of them. And those who choose to stay and not go. Yeah.
And remote opportunities, like there's not only brain drain, but often brain gain, that those people then working, that is a beautiful example, in Dublin want to give back and maybe contact you if you have a call, you have this direct connection, it's perfect. Zambians out there, this is the term, question. We're collecting now a question from the audience. Don't be shy, there's one coming up. And that will be our last question for today, looking at time, because we do have actual demo sessions. It's a very funny one. Since language inclusivity is the topic, is the report available in any local languages? Mapalo. Once we have the data, we'll be translating it, right? Actually, as an important announcement and answer to that question, then together as a collective, so again, ecosystem matters, and we are so grateful BongoHive exists. We together applied for funding to collect data in Bemba. There was a call from Masakani Hub. So fingers crossed, so maybe we'll be part of the solution. We hope so. Okay, so people, you were a bit shy on questions. Anything left unsaid? One question now. Those are the questions.
Oh, you can just raise them, just orally share.
Okay, my question is around data. So,
A quick one, huh? We're collecting the data, yeah?
so my name is Yassi. Myself and Pendo are the co-founders of BongoHive. Just want to find out from Good Nature Grow and maybe Francis there. So you guys are collecting data in but then how do you then transition from just you having access to the data to you opening it up to, I've got my young friend here, Lighton, who's done quite amazing stuff and want to maybe do some innovation, but he doesn't have the capacity to collect data the same way Good Nature Agro is doing. So you are doing the heavy lifting, but then how do you make it easy for a person like him to, if he wants to build an app that kind of like makes use of course, when you talk about languages also, maybe for now we'll be talking about general language data, but then at some point we need to begin categorizing this data because there's language data that is in agriculture, is in education, is in mining, is in finance and stuff like that. So if he wants to build an app that is in agriculture, how does he then just tap into what, instead of him collecting the data, you collecting the data and the other person collecting the data, how do we begin now doing the harvesting together and then just open sourcing it so that anybody that wants to make use of that data can do that. So that is across various sectors. So it could be in agriculture, it could be in finance, it could be in manufacturing, it could be in innovation. Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, so the first thing, of course, the Data Protection Act is sort of a barrier to that for us sharing that. But one thing that can be done, of course, there are ways we can share data that is already analyzed and we can create data sets from that, excluding personal information. Yeah, because, of course, there are laws and regulations that prevent us from doing that. Yeah, but I think this is a very interesting question, and yeah, it would be good to explore how we can actually do that. Yeah, I've been seeing what has been building, so we'll carry on with the conversations. Yeah.
A concrete action point. Do you want to say something as well?
Yes, I can add to that, and I think the submission is valid. In the age of AI, the more data you have access to, the better the potential outcomes, and the more clean data you have access to, the more transformative your potential outcomes. I would say that's still an open question, regulation being cited. The other piece is that anybody who's collected data before also appreciate that data is very expensive to collect, curate, and maintain. So what would be the incentives for the actors in that ecosystem to open source the data? We're actively working on ways and means we can anonymize the data so that it can be used, but there's still some open questions that we still need to answer.
A thought is being born.
It's all about monetizing data, right? And a lot of people in other countries do this very successfully. What we don't realize is, for example, in your industry, right? You will know what, I mean, I don't know if you're using GPS on where particular farmers are sitting, but imagine a data set where a particular district grew maize of a certain variety so well based on certain structured instructions. And imagine that what that does for a seed company, right? Yeah. That data set is valuable. So my point is, the data set is, you can have it, but then structuring that to create value out of it is where the key is. What is of value to you may not have been This is collective data, yeah, it's useful to us, but then there's a spin-off from that which we need to understand and monetize. What we always is monetize the data. Then, if that is a side business for you, or something that's contracted out to a third party, right? It creates value and creates other ecosystems for something you want to do.
Final additions?
Yeah, just so one point. I don't know if you're aware of the revised Electronic Government Act of 2021. So we were at a session where we were sort of finalizing the new draft, and a couple of things lead to your question. Right? One is because government has been locked into vendor-specific platforms over the years and spent millions of dollars, maintaining those. There's a significant shift there that we should have more open data policies and just a shift in mindset. So there's a shift towards more open source platforms and also sourcing locally and ensuring that the data can be even shared between government institutions, making sure that data is collected only once. So I think from that perspective, if you consider government is at that level, I can imagine if the change happens faster there, it might also push maybe private sector to be a lot more open as policy changes, the laws change, also that the mindset and things also change along the way. But I get your point very clearly. It's a tough space to be in.
Talking about government data, there are great people here from the Zambia Evidence Lab. Mingle with them. Maybe you can raise your hands. Doing work on how to breaking down data silos, how AI can be used to label labor data, labor surveys effectively, how to use AI to subtract data from administrative information that just sits within ministries in paper or in PDFs and can actually be used. So they're doing great work. Mingle with them. And that is the close of our panel. I'm so happy with all the information shared. We're already ready for our next report. We'll be guiding the panel there. We'll be taking a picture. And then in the meantime, Aubrey will guide you through the demonstration sessions. So just Mapalo, Pendo, and the panel, you can follow me. Round of applause. Thank you.